Hello everyone, I'm Hayley. I'm President of Glasgow University Student Representative Council, or more affectionately known as the SRC. I'm delighted to welcome you all here today to the Butte Hall to witness the installation of Dr. Abu-Sittah as Rector of the University of Glasgow. The role of the Rector is to work closely with the SRC and the wider student community to champion the needs and priorities of University of Glasgow students. It is a uniquely influential position, and the person in it has the potential to be a powerful advocate for students at the highest level of university decision-making. This election season has demonstrated the power of a united student voice, and the record-breaking voter turnout is a clear indication of the priorities of our student community. Recognition must therefore be given to the incredibly active and determined student campaign team who mobilised over 80% of voting students to elect Dr. Abu-Sittah as Rector. It is evident that the incoming Rector's focus on divestment from the arms industry here at the University resonates with our students, and the SRC would encourage the University to recognise this as an expression of the feeling amongst the student body in relation to the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Given the Given the multitude of issues that face our students today, I believe it is now more important than ever that their voices are heard loud and clear by the University. To Dr. Abu-Sittah, we at the SRC are hopeful that we see you rise to this task and that you'll become an effective and active champion of our students. We now have an opportunity to forge an impactful working relationship and to make it our own, and to set a precedent for how we engage in the coming weeks and the coming years. I'm looking forward to working alongside you to champion the student voice and to develop the foundations of a strong partnership dedicated to representing our students. So congratulations, Dr. Abu-Sittah. Please come forward to be installed as Rector of the University of Glasgow.
Each generation must discover its mission, fulfill it or betray it, in relative opacity. Frantz Fanon, The Wretched of the Earth. The students of Glasgow University decided to vote in memory of 52,000 Palestinians killed, in memory of 14,000 children murdered. They voted in solidarity with 17,000 Palestinian children orphaned, 70,000 wounded, of whom 50% are children, and 4,000 to 5,000 children whose limbs have been amputated. They voted to stand in solidarity with the students and the teachers of 360 schools destroyed and 12 universities completely leveled. They stood in solidarity with the family and the memory of Dima Al-Hajj, Glasgow University alumni, murdered with her baby and her whole family. At the beginning of the 20th century, Lenin predicted that real revolutionary change in Western Europe depended on its close contact with the liberation movements against imperialism in enslaved colonies. Glasgow University students understood that what we have to lose when we allow our politics to become inhuman. They also understood that what is important and different about Gaza is that it is the laboratory in which global capital is looking at the management of surplus populations. They stood next to Gaza and in solidarity with its people because they understood that the weapons that Netanyahu uses today are the weapons that Modi will use tomorrow. The quadcopters, drones fitted with sniper guns, used so deviously and effectively in Gaza that one night at Al Ahli Hospital, we received over 30 wounded civilians, shot outside our hospital trying to get to our hospital by these inventions. These quadcopters, used today in Gaza, will be used tomorrow in Mumbai, in Nairobi, in Sao Paulo. And eventually, like the facial recognition software developed by the Israelis, they will come to Easter House and to Spring Hill. So, in reality, who did these students vote for? My name is Ghassan Sulaiman Hussein Dahshan Sagr Dahshan Ahmad Mahmoud Abu-Sittah. And with the exception of myself, my father and all of my forefathers were born in Palestine, in a land that was given away by one of Glasgow University's previous rectors. 3 decades before his declaration that committed British government to supporting settler colonialism in Palestine, Alfred Balfour noted during his rectoral address in 1891, and I quote, "A survey of the world shows us a vast number of savage communities, apparently at a stage of culture not profoundly different from that which prevailed amongst prehistoric man." 6 years later, this anti-Semite masterminded the Aliens Act in 1905 to prevent Jews escaping from the pogroms of Eastern Europe from coming to safety in the United Kingdom. In 1920, my grandfather, Sheikh Hussein, built a school with his own money in the small village that my family lived in. And there, he set the foundations for a relationship that made education central to my family's life. On the 15th of May, 1948, Haganah forces ethnically cleansed that village and drove my family, who had lived on that land for generations, into a refugee camp in Khan Yunis that now stands in ruins in the Gaza Strip. The memoirs of the Haganah officer who had invaded my grandfather's house were found by my uncle. And in these memoirs, the officer notes with incredulity how the house was full of books, had a certificate from a law degree from the University of Cairo belonging to my great uncle. A year after the Nakba, my father graduated from medical school at Cairo University and moved back to Gaza to work in UNRWA in its newly formed clinics in Khan Yunis camp. But like many of his generation, he moved to the Gulf to build the health system in those countries. In 1963, he came to Glasgow to pursue his postgraduate training in pediatrics and fell in love with the city and its people. And so it was that in 1988, I came to study medicine at Glasgow University. And here, I discovered what medicine can do, how medicine and a career in medicine places you at the coalface of people's lives, and how, if you are equipped with the right political, sociological, and economic lenses, you can understand how people's lives are being shaped and many times contorted by political forces beyond their control. And it is in Glasgow that I saw for the first time the meaning of international solidarity. Glasgow of that time was rife with groups that were organizing in solidarity with El Salvador, with Nicaragua, with Palestine. And Glasgow City Council was one of the first to twin with cities in the West Bank. And Glasgow University set up its first scholarship for the victims of the Sabra and Shatila massacre. And it really is during my years in Glasgow that my journey as a war surgeon started. First as a student when I went to the first American war in Iraq in '91, and then with Mike to South Lebanon in '93, and then with my wife to Gaza in the Second Intifada, and then to the wars waged by the Israelis on Gaza in 2009, 2012, 2014, and 2021, to the war in Mosul in northern Iraq, to Damascus during the war, and to the Yemen war. But it wasn't until the 9th of October that I got to Gaza and saw the genocide unfold. And everything that I had known about wars compared to nothing that I had seen. It was the difference between a flood and a tsunami. For 43 days, I watched the killing machines tear apart the lives and the bodies of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, half of whom were children. And after I came out, the students of Glasgow University reached out for me to run for election as rector. And soon after, one of Balfour's savages won the elections. So what have we learned from the genocide and about genocides over the last 6 months? We've learned that scholasticide, the elimination of all educational institutions, both infrastructure and human resources, is a critical component of the genocidal erasure of a people. 12 universities completely flattened, 400 schools, 6,000 students killed, 230 school teachers killed, 100 professors, deans, and 2 university presidents killed. We also learned, and this is something that I found out after I left Gaza, that the genocidal project is like an iceberg, of which Israel is only the tip. The rest of the iceberg is made up of an axis of genocide, and this axis of genocide is the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, Australia, Canada, France, countries that have supported Israel with arms and continue to support the genocide with arms, and have maintained political support for the genocidal project so that it would continue. We should not be fooled by the United States' attempts at humanitarianizing the genocide, killing people while dropping food aid by parachute. We also discovered, or I also discovered, that part of the genocidal iceberg are genocidal enablers, little people, men and women, in every facet of life, in every institution. And these genocidal enablers come in 3 types. The first type are those whose racialization and total othering of Palestinians has rendered them unable to feel anything for the 14,000 children who have been killed, and for whom Palestinian children remain ungrievable. Had Israel killed 14,000 puppies or kittens, they would have been completely distraught by the barbarity of it. The second group are those whom Hannah Arendt said in The Banality of Evil, and I quote, "Except for an extraordinary diligence in looking after his personal advancement, He had no motives at all. And the third are the apathetic. As Ardent said, evil thrives on apathy and cannot exist without it. In April 1915, 1 year after the First World War, Rosa Luxemburg wrote about the German bourgeois society. Violated, dishonored, wading in blood, the ravening beasts, the witches' Sabbath of anarchy, a plague to all in humanity. Those of us who have seen, smelled, and heard what the weapons of war do to a child's body by design, those of us who have amputated the unreconstructible and unsalvageable limbs of wounded children can never have anything but the utmost disdain for all involved in the manufacture, design, and sale of these instruments of brutalism. The aim of weapons manufacturing is to destroy life and to ravage nature. In the arms industry, profits rise not only as a result of the resources captured in or through war, but through the process of destruction of all life, both human and environmental. The idea that there could be peace or an unpolluted world when capital grows by war is ludicrous. Neither the arms trade nor the fossil fuel trade have any place at university. So, what is our plan, this savage and his accomplices? We will campaign for divestment from arms manufacturing and fossil fuel industry in this university, both to de-risk the university following the ICJ's ruling that this is plausibly a genocidal war, and the current case brought against Germany by Nicaragua for complicity in genocide. 2, genocidal blood money made as a profit from these shares during the war will be used to set up a fund to help rebuild Palestinian academic institutions. This fund will be in the name of Dima al-Hajj, in memory of a life cut short by this genocide. 3, we will form a coalition of student and civil society groups and unions to turn Glasgow University into a campus free from gender-based violence. We will campaign to finding concrete solutions to end student poverty at Glasgow University and to provide affordable housing to all students. We will campaign for boycott of all Israeli academic institutions that have progressed from being complicit in apartheid and the denial of education to Palestinians, to genocide and the denial of life. We will campaign for a new definition of anti-Semitism that does not conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Israeli genocidal settler colonialism and anti-Semitism. We will fight with all othered and racialized communities, including the Jewish community, the Roma community, Muslims, blacks, and all racialized groups against the common enemy of a rising right-wing fascism, now absolved of its anti-Semitic roots by an Israeli government in exchange for their support for the elimination of the Palestinian people. Only this week, just this week, we saw how a German institution, a German government-funded institution, censured a Jewish intellectual and philosopher, Nancy Fraser, because of her support of the Palestinian people. Over a year ago, we watched the Labour Party suspend Moshe Machover, a Jewish anti-Zionist campaigner for anti-Semitism from the Labour Party. On the flight up, I was fortunate enough to be reading a book by Lindsay Stonebridge. And the book is called We Are Free to Change the World. And I quote from this book, "It is when the experience of powerlessness is at its most acute, when history seems at its most bleak, that the determination to think like a human being, creatively, courageously, and complicatedly, matters the most." 90 years ago, in his Solidarity song, Bertolt Brecht asks, "Whose tomorrow is tomorrow? Whose world is the world?" Well, my answer to him and to you, and to the students of Glasgow University, it is your world to fight for. It is your tomorrow to make. But for us, all of us, part of our resistance to the erasure of genocide is to talk about tomorrow in Gaza, is to plan for the healing of the wounds of Gaza tomorrow. We will own tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a Palestinian day. In 1984, when Glasgow University made Winnie Mandela its rector, in the darkest days of the P.W. Botha rule and a brutal apartheid regime supported by Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, no one could have dreamt that in 40 years' time, South African men and women would be standing in front of the International Court of Justice, defending the Palestinian people's right to life, as free citizens of a free nation. One of this genocide's aims is to drown us in our own sorrow. And so, on a personal note, I want to hold space so that I and my family can grieve for our loved ones. I dedicate this to the memory of our beloved uncle, Abd al-Min'am, killed at 74 on the day of his birthday. I dedicated to the memory of my colleague, Dr. Midhat Saydam, who had stepped out for half an hour to take his sister to their house so that she can be safe with her children, and he never came back. I dedicate it to my friend and my colleague, Dr. Ahmad Maqadme, who was executed by the Israeli army in Shifa Hospital just over 10 days ago with his mother. I dedicate it to the ever-smiling Dr. Haytham Abu Hani, the head of the emergency department at Shifa Hospital, who always met me with a smile and a pat on the shoulder. But most of all, we dedicate this to our land, and in the words of the ever-present Mahmoud Darwish, to our land, and it is a prize of war, the freedom to die from longing and burning, and our land, in its bloodied night, is a jewel that glimmers for the far upon the far and illuminates what's outside it. And so I want to end with hope. And in the words of the immortal Bobby Sands, our revenge will be the laughter of our children. Hasta la victoria siempre.